sneak over the side so we can get a bit closer.
No, fair enough. I love how I don't have to ding on a glass. The room starts going quiet as soon as someone finally gets up on stage. This is just a bit of a sound check. Can people in the back corners of the room raise their hands too, if they can indeed hear me? Well, 2 people can. That's a start. That's local democracy in action. Thank you. Were you all happy with the sound? Cool. I'd like to invite Pam Cooper to the stage, who will be opening our proceedings tonight with a karakia.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te atakura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora, me taki, and thank you, Pam. Bring this down a little bit. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm Jonathan Milne. I'm an outsider. I'm an out-of-towner. I'm down from Auckland to host tonight's event. I'm not sure if you're whistling and waving at me or at someone else. They're up the back. I'm a journalist from Newsroom, the media organisation, and have covered local government in this country for a few years now. I've met a number of your candidates before and again tonight, so I'm very grateful for the gracious reception that I've had from Central Hawke's Bay. Thank you. Just to start first, we have some basic health and safety. Emergency exits. We have one there and one there. So familiarise yourself with them. If the fire alarms go off, calmly proceed towards the exits and towards the front car park, please, where you can assemble. If the building starts shaking, it's probably an earthquake, either that or rousing applause. If it feels like an earthquake, please drop, cover and hold and await instructions. Heckling. Is this a heckling town? You are very, very, very welcome to heckle me, but I've got terrible hearing, so it'll probably be wasted. Please don't heckle the candidates. One thing I've learned over the last few years of covering local government is the enormous commitment that people make in running for local politics, and I do think they deserve our respect and our gratitude. I wouldn't do it. I'm not brave enough. So I can't speak highly enough of those who do put up their hands in their communities to represent their communities and to help with the decision-making in their communities. Thank you, everyone. This evening is being live-streamed on Facebook, and later this evening will also be available on YouTube with a link from the Council's website. Before we get started with the candidates, I would like to invite our co-organisers to say a few words. Alistair Ormond is President of the Waipukuro Rotary Club, and Theresa Mee is President of the Business Professional Women's Central Hawke's Bay. And they've been instrumental in putting this together and will be helping run events and hand around microphones here tonight. So thank you to them, and please take the podium.
Kia ora tātou, and good evening everyone. I'm Teresa Mee, and I'm the President of the Central Hawke's Bay Business and Professional Women's Club, also known as BPW, and we've been a part of this community since 1967. And we're also a nationwide and international organisation spanning nearly 100 countries, all focused on developing the business, professional and leadership potential of women. So here in Central Hawke's Bay, we take a really practical approach to that. One of the things we do is we award an annual Second Chance Education Scholarship, which assists local women to return to education. We also create opportunities for networking, advocacy, and mentoring. So tonight is especially meaningful for us. New Zealand was the first country in the world where women won the right to vote back in 1893, and it was a hard-fought right to win. And it's really precious. So as women and as citizens, we honour that fight by using our vote in elections like this. So in that spirit, I also want to warmly invite you to join us on Friday, 19 September, for our Camellia Breakfast. It's a community celebration of Suffrage Day, which marks the anniversary of the day that New Zealand women got the vote. And it's also our fundraiser for our Second Chance Education Scholarship. It's a wonderful way to start the day with good company, good conversation, and an inspiring speaker. So events like tonight and our Camellia Breakfast next month remind us how important it is to participate, to listen, and to use our vote wisely. So on behalf of BPW Central Hawke's Bay, thank you for being here tonight and for valuing the democratic process. Ngā mihi nui.
Alastair Ormond from Rotary.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Alastair Ormond from the Waipakura Rotary Club, the new president. Rotary is involved in the community in lots of ways, and I'm just going to outline briefly what we do. But first of all, I want to say a big thank you to the candidates. It is a major effort and a major commitment to put yourself up for this local body election. We've got local bodies here, and we've also got the regional council candidates here. Congratulations to all of them. A fantastic effort to put yourself up, and we applaud you for that. Rotary focuses in this community, apart from what we do as a Rotary Club internationally, promoting peace and providing clean water. Inside the community, we are focused primarily on youth, and in CHB, we are co-sponsors of the Young Employee of the Year, along with the Central Hawke's Bay District Council. We are involved with Connect, which is a project which helps with driver mentoring and funding to enable the aim is to allow all school leavers to leave school with a driver's licence. It's not limited to school leavers. Other people in the community that don't have the funds to get their own licence are supported through that project. And just as an aside, Connect is looking for further mentor volunteers, if anybody's interested. We're involved heavily in the Arboretum up on Pukeora. That was established by Rotary in 1993. We're also looking for volunteers. We have a working bee on November the 17th. If anybody in the community would like to come and assist, we're also looking for people there. We have the Roy Fraser and his team run the Rotary River Pathways Trust, the Tukituk Trails and the Gumtree Park, an amazing facility for walkers and bikers. And Roy and his team are also seeking to have that bridge destroyed by Cyclone Gabrielle rebuilt, and that is a major question mark that we would like some answers to tonight or any time soon. Where in February of next year, our major fundraiser is going to be the four-wheel drive rally, which we've called the Ruahine four-wheel drive rally. It's on Saturday the 28th of February, and that goes on sale in September, so that's very imminent. But it's a major fundraiser, and as of today, we have one more event to announce, and that is here on the 125th anniversary of Banjo Paterson's tour of New Zealand. Banjo Paterson, the famous Australian poet, did a tour of New Zealand reporting on the Boer War. He was a journalist at that stage as well as a poet. And there's a guy called Greg North doing a run around New Zealand. And in fact, he's going to be at this theatre Wednesday, the 10th of December. And that's another Rotary fundraiser project. We, Rotary, are always looking for new members and enthusiasm. It's not an open job, but if anybody is interested, go on the website, make an inquiry, come to the meetings and see if it fits you. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. And good luck to all the candidates. Thank you very much.
Alistair, what was the name of that bridge? I think I'm going to have to ask a question about that. Expect a question. And clean water. I think that it won't be the last time tonight we hear about clean water. Okay, I just want to outline how things are going to go from here. We are going to meet all the council candidates. We won't be taking questions from me or from the floor to them. Instead, they'll each have a chance to speak for a tightly controlled 45 seconds. I know it doesn't sound like much, but trust me, this evening will go very fast and we've got a lot of ground to cover. And my job, as this out-of-towner flying in here, will be to ask the dumb questions and try and keep us on track. I'd like to invite to the stage the candidates for the at-large candidates contesting 2 seats. We should have Kelly Annand, Meg Gordon, Stella McDonald and Gerard Minahan. The videos have already played, haven't they? Yep.
Oh, kia ora everybody. I'm Kelly Annand. This is my fifth time wanting to stand for council. Basically, what do I offer this role? I offer everything that I've offered for the last 12 years. I'm hardworking and committed and really dedicated to this council and this community, and I show up every day for it. Some of the specific projects that I would like to see get over the line over the next few years is getting a long-term plan for the Waipokaro Library, getting some work in the town centre development space, quick wins with some Russell Park work, setting up of the local water done well, CCO for success, supporting new councillors around the table, which is really important. I think that I had really good mentoring when I first started, and I think that I would like to be able to do that for the next lot coming through, and set up a strategic growth unit to manage growth within Central Hawke's Bay. And the existing work that I'm going to continue with is Network of Networks, Russell Park Quick Wins, community funding, housing and health task force, and continuing to push for external funding. Cool.
Thank you, Kate.
Oh, God. Okay, well, wait, not.
I'm Meg Gordon. I'm okay standing here speaking because I've actually been an international speaker for years. There isn't a single person who's standing who doesn't want the same thing for Hawke's Bay, Central Hawke's Bay. Everyone wants the very, very best. It's just the way that we do it. The reason why I have stood is because I had never met Will Foley before, and I decided that actually I could be really good a part of a change team. And by change, I mean that we can have different eyes on the same problems that have already been here. The day after the elections, there will still be the same problems. It won't have changed. But I do believe that new eyes on the problems will actually be a better thing. Thank you.
Stella McDonald. Is that working?
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for coming out to meet with us tonight. Many years ago, I heard a saying, or read a saying, that really resonated with me. And the saying was, a goal without a date is merely a dream. The goal in this instance, in my opinion, in CHB, is the water problem. Not just the water problem, the infrastructure. I would like to see a placard or board or something put up in the centre of Waipukara detailing, with a diagram detailing the different processes that are required for the update and the renewal of the infrastructure. I believe if we have something there like that, with time frames for each process, it could work.
Thank you, Stella. And finally, Gerard Moynihan.
Good evening all. My name's Gerard Moynihan. I'm married to Di, have 2 teenage daughters who currently attend the CHB College. For the past 20 years, I've owned and operated small business Stories Clothing and also have both served in the past and continue to serve on several local charity organisations in CHB. I'm standing for the new at-large ward because what I'm hearing across our urban and rural communities is clear. We're not thriving, we're just surviving. Since being elected in 2016, nearly 9 years, I've kept a 99.9% attendance record at all council workshops and formal meetings. That shows I'm very committed to represent our CHB community and advocate for the voice of our ratepayer around the council table. I'll continue to push for common sense decisions, practical outcomes, and make every dollar work as hard as the people who pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. Thank you all. I'll let you go back to your seats, and we'll have the next group on stage. These are the candidates for the Aramoana-Ruahine wards. So I'm expecting Simon Collin, Jerry Greer, Brent Muggeridge and Kate Taylor. And you're welcome to either take the lectern or speak from your seat, whatever makes you more comfortable. Got everyone? Simon Collin.
Well, good evening. Just before I do start, James, sorry, I'd just like to really thank the council and the sponsors for tonight's evening. I think it's a great initiative. And I think it gives everyone a great opportunity to meet candidates and also to hear briefly what the candidates are saying. So thank you. I'm a sheep and cattle farmer and living in the Whitukura Flemington area for 16 years. I'm focused on the key issues that affect our community every day, including rates, roading standards and ensure greater efficiency and transparency within council operation. I care about the future of Central Hawke's Bay and will be an advocate for strong rural representation, smart common sense spending and practical solutions that reflect the needs of our community. I will take a proactive approach to issues rather than a reactive one. I've gained over 30 years of governance experience at regional and national level and bring a fresh face to council and always ready to listen to ratepayers and believe I can make a positive change. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. And now my fellow journalist, Kate Taylor.
When I'm giving a speech with my communicate hat on, I normally lead with, I'm a sister to 3, mum to 2, wife to 1, slave to none. But with my councillor hat on, I welcome all of you into that story now. We continue to make improvements in asset management, contract management, and working on procurement policies that employ local, not giving way to price and quality. It's a hard balance. I love the fact that we have done millions of dollars worth of roading recovery since the cyclone, and I have been chair of the Transport Committee that has overseen that. Has it been perfect? No. Have we made progress? Yes. I believe in collaboration and partnership and positivity. I believe in being myself, being authentic. You always get the same, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Brent Muggeridge.
Good evening. The only reason I stand for council is the core reason that council exists, to manage the infrastructure for the ratepayer. We must continue to make investment in our infrastructure. This has a direct effect on lowering maintenance costs. Maintenance is a direct cost to the ratepayer. So the balancing act is keeping affordability with compromise without compromising the levels of service. Resilience and compliance network is all we need, so we should only be rating for the basics. I realise that affordability is the biggest issue facing us. There are 2 ways to make rates affordable: increase income through external funding. We've had over 170 million in the last 6 years. And 2, reduce expenditure. By 1, stopping rating for outside agencies such as tourism that only benefit a few. And 2, is it 2? Bring more work back in-house and reduce expenditure, excessive spending on consultants. Council staff have become a conduit between the council stable and consultants.
Thank you, Brent. And finally, we have Jerry Greer.
Let's see if I can break the record in 45 seconds, shall I? For the rural and coastal communities of Central Hawke's Bay, a steady hand and a deep understanding of our land and roading network are invaluable. I offer just that as I seek re-election for the Aramoana-Ruahine Ward. With strong roots in this district, my commitment to the future of Central Hawke's Bay is profoundly personal. I hope to leave behind a vibrant and sustainable legacy to my family and my community, ensuring their generations can prosper. My experience around the council table makes me a reliable candidate with a proven track record of consistently challenging the council to deliver better outcomes. My strong connection in the East Coast Rural Support Trust further highlights my dedication to our rural way of life. I look forward to working with a freshly new council team if re-elected. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, everyone. And we're now welcome to the stage 8 candidates, no fewer than 8 candidates from Ruataniwha Ward. And I just want to say that up here in Auckland, we've been running some candidates debates, and we've been struggling to get candidates to actually turn up and talk to their communities. So I'm absolutely gobsmacked and impressed that everyone is turning up here today, and that we've got quite so many people, especially from Ruataniwha Ward. We should have Pip Byrne, Todd Choate, Tim Gilbertson, Murray Kenderdine, Kirsty Lawrence, Jenny Nelson-Smith, Ben Revel and Graham Stubbs. And first up, we have Todd Choate.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming along. I'm Todd Choate, born and bred CHB. I'm a proud husband, father, and for the past 15 years, local business owner employing local staff. I'm standing here tonight because I believe Central Hawke's Bay can do better. I'm a practical leader who believes efficiency is about more than just numbers. It's about respect for the resources that we've been entrusted with. By cutting unnecessary spending and making every cent count, we not only protect those dollars, we also build a culture of responsibility and trust that benefits the whole community. We need to change this culture. Let's just leave us and them behind. Move forward, side by side as one community. Stronger together, ready for what's ahead.
Time.
To do that, council needs to get back to the basics. Be transparent, be approachable, and just be honest. And not dictate to the community, but work with the community for a better, stronger, smarter future for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll work along the line here. So, Murray Candidate next.
Yeah, hi, Central Hawke's Bay. I'm Murray Candidate. I have 3 points. One, I believe it's imperative that we maintain our current infrastructure and our assets properly. 2, I believe that water supply and water storage are issues that we need to address urgently. 3, I want to see greater communication and transparency between council and community. And I haven't got time to explain how we do that in 45 seconds.
Thank you. And we now have Pip Byrne.
Good evening, I'm Pip Byrne. Over the past 5 years, I've built a reputation for being approachable, engaged and committed. I know what makes Central Hawke's Bay unique, and I know that every one of us plays a part in making it a great place to work, live and play. Those diverse perspectives deserve to be heard around the council table. In this time of unprecedented change, you need a strong and experienced voice representing you. I'm committed to standing up for the everyday ratepayer, protecting what makes Central Hawke's Bay great and ensuring our community's voice is heard loud and clear. Together we can navigate these changes and keep Central Hawke's Bay the place we're proud to call home.
And do we have Tim or Ben next?
Good evening, everyone. This is a bit like speed dating, although I've never been a speed dater. Very simple: control the rate rises, stop the pine trees, and sort out the water problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim Gilbertson. And Ben Revel. Can anyone beat that?
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of these guys are saying, actually. Okay, the next 3 years are going to be a time of financial pressures on our council. $66 million was spent on private contractors and consultants this past year. Money has to be saved by using in-house staff and the council making its own assessments, rather than farming responsibility off to outside consultants at a massive cost. So I'm not sugarcoating this. I back the idea of river control led privately with the involvement of a KiwiSaver fund. This would work best and would not be tampered with by the major political parties. It would survive any council amalgamations. That's a very real possibility, trust me. If this makes sense to you, vote for Ben Revel for Ruataniwha Ward.
Thank you. And we have Jenny Nelson-Smith.
I've also had to turn my hearing aids up. Hi, my name is Jenny Nelson-Smith and I want to speak for our urban communities, Waipukaro and Waipawa, the heart of the Ruataniwha Ward. The biggest challenge for Central Hawke's Bay is played out daily in Waipukaro and Waipawa. Water. Waipukaro and Waipawa residents have been paying for their drinking water for the last 5 to 8 years. So that's our issue. Haven't heard that mentioned at the council table ever. Burst pipes, deferred maintenance. Some days, trying to get out of my driveway onto the main drag is a challenge. Navigating detours, road closures, single lanes, traffic lights in Waipukaro and Waipawa. This is our daily challenges. I signed Cap Rate's petition whilst I admire the payment plan options that the council's considering. I worry about the foreclosures that will most probably happen in about 3 or 4 years.
Thank you, Jenny.
So let me be your voice for the Ruataniwha Ward. Kia ora.
Kirsty Lawrence.
I was asked why I was standing for council. The answer: great communities are built by people who care enough to want to make a difference. I had my speech all prepared for tonight and ready to be here tonight, and I put on my charm bracelet. Each piece is special moments and memories. When they're all linked together, if they create something special, strong and meaningful. That is our CHB community, and that's what needs to be the people that represent you on council, each person bringing different strengths to create a dynamic team. I want to give our community a council voice, that passionate, practical and connected to you. I am a results-driven advocate who has the best interests of CHB at heart. And what about you, CHB? What can you do? If you want to make a difference, come together and vote. We can build a stronger future, ready community together.
Thank you. And from Hatuhone St John's, Graham Stubbs.
Good evening. I'm going to take a totally different tact. I'm going to talk about income. Rate-paying residents have decreased in Hawke's Bay. Some residents intend to relocate outside of central Hawke's Bay. This diminishes our main source of income, rates. My intention is to be on the Strategic Planning and Development Committee. I'm very motivated and I will try to get proposed investments driven to a finish, such as residential subdivisions completed. New subdivisions are new homes. New homes results in a rate collection. That is income. What I have stated, I'm sure has already been said by fellow councillors in the past. But as a councillor, we must try and try again to get results. I believe nothing is impossible.
Thank you to all the candidates from Ruataniwha. And I'd now like to welcome to the stage the two candidates for Rautahi Ward, Te Ata Kura Hoata and Amiria Nepe Apatu. First up, we'll have Te Ata Kura Hoata. Amiria Nepe Apatu.
How can I lower this? Ui ai o taku aro. Nā rongo kātou taku hau, he hau no tua, he hau mai tata. Haumi e hui e taiki e. My name's Amiria Nepe Apatu. I come from a large whānau that grew up in Takapau. When I grew up in Takapau, my parents taught me about participating within our community. Not only did they teach me about participation, but they also taught me about partnership. We needed to have partnership within our community. They also taught me about protecting our environment that we lived in. This is what I bring to the table. I bring participating in robust discussion to be able to build sustainable partnerships in which we can protect our community here in Tamatea CHB. Kia ora.
Thank you, Maria. Te Ata Kura Hoata.
kaito ariki petu marama, kaito mana petu karanema, kaito hukatonga te petu hukanui, hukaroa tāpere kaukau atu e hie, maranga mai e hie, whanno whana haramai te toki, haumi e hui e I tae ki e. The coolest thing about me standing as a candidate, I'm the youngest. So when it comes to the long-term plans, I'll still be here. My slogan for this campaign is Kia tapata hika kotahira. My grandfather's name is Canon Wite Tauhuata, who served in the 28th Māori Battalion as a mihingare for the soldiers over there. But he wrote this song, and I'm sure you fellas all know it. It's called Tūtira Mai Ngā Iwi. Yeah, he wrote it, and he's my grandfather, so I can teach you all how to do it. But you can't do that until you come talk to me, kapo. Goes, Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, kia tapatahi, kia kotahira, tātou tātou e. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I think we'll be able to go over her 45 seconds for that. Thank you to all the candidates. And can I just say, I think I'm allowed to say this because I'm a journalist, that it's not just those of you who are in Rautahi Ward who can vote for these guys. There's also a referendum on the Māori wards, so you all have a chance to vote for them. We're going to take a short break now, just 4 or 5 minutes, just to reorganise the stage a little bit ahead of the mayoral candidates taking the stage. They will have a little bit more time. It will still be fast-paced, but and there will also be a chance to ask questions of them. So if, feel free to stretch your legs, stretch your arms, and we'll just sort things out for a few minutes.
So I'm born and raised here in CHB. I now raise my own family and run my business, so I really love this district. And when people started approaching me and asking me to stand, and my family got right behind me, and I thought this is the best time to put my hand up and see if I can make a difference to make CHB a better place. So to bring a common sense approach back to council, to allow ratepayers to feel much better heard than they do now, and to address the financial challenges that the council currently faces. So easily the biggest challenge facing our district at the moment is rates affordability, and with the cost of lots of things going up at the moment, people are struggling out there. At this stage, the rates are forecast to keep increasing well above the rate of inflation, and so we need to address that challenge, try to achieve more sustainability around the rates, and while that challenge remains, not get distracted by other issues. So I've been 6 years in the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, most of those as Deputy Chair, and so I feel I've got excellent experience and understanding of local government, and I just feel I can bring that to the council table, offer a different style of leadership, one that doesn't dictate but brings more inclusive of members around the table and a respect for each other's opinions.
Well, we've made a vision of what a thriving future looks like in Central Hawke's Bay. We've done that together and we've made huge progress, but there's clearly still a lot more work to do. And particularly now, things are tough right now, but we won't change that just with slogans and quick fixes. We need to ride it out with some smart thinking, strong partnerships and a clear-eyed view to the future, and that's what I bring. clearly paying for the things that we need without breaking the bank is the biggest challenge right now. Costs are rising, incomes aren't, and that's squeezing everything. But here's the thing, I'm not someone to chase the quick fixes. I'm actually focused on the long haul and making it count for the next generation. So while we need to be efficient, we can't shortchange ourselves right now. We've come far too far. So firstly, as the Mayor, the first thing is to be able to bring together a new variety of voices and insights after the election, new people, including our new at-large and Māori ward councillors. This is something I love doing, and it's important for working together strongly as a team. Well, together we thrive. From my perspective, the biggest priority is actually about how we make our new Hawke's Bay water entity as successful as we can. Must be smart, must be affordable, and must be accountable locally. I've been around this work for a long time now. I have the knowledge and the skills to know how to really lean into this, and it's absolutely vital. You know me. I show up. We work together through change, through growth, not to mention a pandemic and a cyclone. I've helped bring tens of millions of dollars into this community. We've rebuilt council from the ground up. We've delivered record levels of infrastructure, and we've proven that we can battle out the big stuff together. We've got to keep going.
Is that working? There we go. Thank you, AV. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm now delighted to welcome to the stage your two candidates for Mayor, Will Foley and Alex Walker. Sorry, AV, I just swapped the seating order because I wanted the table. Please forward a little bit, Will. This is not a debate, and that's why I'm not sitting in the middle or standing at a lectern. It's a chance to meet your candidates and have a conversation with them. First, I have a correction. I think it's very important that our media is accountable for its mistakes. And so I wish to point out that I may have inferred, or people may have inferred from what I said before, that everyone could vote in the Māori ward. That's not the case, of course. Only if you're enrolled in the Māori ward can you. But everyone can vote in the referendum on the Māori ward. So that's my point. Will and Alex, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity to come down and meet with you guys and talk with you. And I'll just find my place in my notes. I have a lot of them. I've spoken with both Alex and Will ahead of tonight's conversation. Will went to school up the river from me in the Hutt Valley, I learned. I've met Alex at Local Government New Zealand meetings. Will Foley is a fourth-generation Takapau farmer. He's been local president of Federated Farmers and has served 2 terms as a regional councillor. Alex Walker had a background in corporate management before returning home to Central Hawke's Bay and has served 3 terms as mayor through COVID and more. I'd like to give both of them a chance to make a 2-minute opening statement, and we'll start with Will and then Alex. The order will be reversed at the end. You want me to sit in here or? Just stay seated.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I just want to say I really appreciate, and I see a lot of people out there that I have already engaged with on the campaign, and the feedback's been really positive. It's been really encouraging, and it's kept me motivated. I probably didn't think it was going to be as intense as it was when I put my hand up, and it's ever since I did, I keep hearing, well, I wouldn't do it, including Jonathan tonight. Look, I obviously I wanted to keep an open mind, and I assumed the talk was going to be around rates and finances, and it's definitely an issue, and we've heard it all tonight. But there's something else that's really stood out to me so far, and the campaign's definitely not over, but that is people see and sense this lack of connection between the people and the council, and that's coming through really strong. Right now, they feel it's the council being represented to them rather than the other way around, which it should be, the people represented to the council. I get in this day and age, engagement's really difficult, but I'm getting around the villages, the towns, groups, businesses, and everyone's saying the same thing and saying, if only we could have this type of regular contact with councillors or mayor, and I'm saying, well, you can and you should. The people come first, and it would involve obviously the mayor and all councillors at different times and venues as a team approach. So many people have also told me of stories of offers and requests to address a need in our community, often not a request for money, but just support, coordination or approval, and such as a mobility park outside a health service provider, a sports ground to be re-signed, supply of materials offered up and sprucing up a tired-looking town, or just business promotion and help with that. And every time the answer's been no. We need to change from a culture of no to yes, and how can we help? Together We Thrive is the strategy currently set in 2017. No one I've seen yet is feeling together, and no one is thriving. It's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Alex Walker.
Ina mana, ina reo rangatira mā tēnā koutou. What a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for coming out and for coming to take your role in democracy really seriously. And thank you for the journey that we've been on for the last few years. As we have created huge change, we have rebuilt the council approach, we have seen extraordinary growth in Central Hawke's Bay. We have come through drought together, and we've come through a national disaster together in the recovery from the cyclone. And it's this point that now frames the future in quite a different way. And how we've done things up until now are not going to always be the way to move forward. And you've seen the string of candidates who've stood on the stage in front of you tonight, who have got big hopes and dreams and aspirations. And they need a strong and experienced leader to bring all of those perspectives together to create the next stage for Central Hawke's Bay. I'm actually reminded right now of what Central Hawke's Bay was like in 2010. Remember that global financial crisis? At that time when our economy was under huge pressure and we forgot about how to continue to be aspirational for the future. And I feel that moment is in our community again, where we've got to ride out this moment in time, make the really smart decisions about how to work together, how to make the right investments, and how to create that step change to be ready for the growth next time. Because 2010 was a really depressed place, and then what happened in 2013, 14 and 15 is the growth and the energy came back to our doorstep, and we'd forgotten how to be positive and how to grow. So right now we've got a time where we have to take the work we've done and bank it, make it as efficient as possible. My timer just went off. And use that time to reset ourselves for the next stage, looking after those green shoots for the positive future.
Thank you. Alex, you talked about some of the challenges that the district's faced in the past. What is the single biggest issue that you think is facing the district now, and how would you help address that as Mayor?
How on earth we afford to look after $1 billion worth of infrastructure assets with 8,000 rateable units currently. And if we're going to set ourselves up for the future, how do we do that? We're also having to address decades and decades of basically using and abusing our infrastructure, which has come home to roost. And in the last half a dozen years, we have done a huge amount of investing in particularly our water infrastructure, but there's a lot more to go. And so how we do that is really vital, and has been why the strategy to move to partnership models and working together with the region on water infrastructure has been a key plank to how we transition ourselves into a more sustainable way to fund our infrastructure.
Thank you, Alex. And Will, you talked about engagement as a big challenge. Is that your biggest challenge? And if so, I hear the problem, but how are you actually going to fix it?
So in terms of engagement, just doing exactly what I've been doing on the campaign, and so seeing people and they're saying we aren't seeing anyone, and so it's a matter of what are your priorities as a mayor and your team of councillors about where you put your time. And I'm just saying it's the people, it starts with the people first. And so if you can do that and then set your strategy in that way, then all of these other issues like infrastructure and roading and everything, will fall down a lot better, and we do it in a way that fits with the people. So right now it's coming out in a very unaffordable way, and the people are just saying we can't afford that, we're going to have to leave town. So the people have to feature first in everything we do, including all that planning.
Does that involve getting out and going door to door like you're still on the campaign trail? I mean, how are you actually going to do that engagement?
Sure. So it means pounding the footpaths, checking in on businesses because they are interacting with many people day to day, and so they've always got a good pulse. We've got many rural villages in Central Hawke's Bay, and Takapo is a really good example that are feeling this time of pain at the moment and set up their own sort of concerned ratepayers group and trying to do that across all the different villages so that when myself and other councillors go out and check in, we can check in with those people that have the pulse of that overall village rather than seeing everyone.
Both of you ran organisations, in Will's case businesses, in Alex's case the council, through COVID. What did you learn that you would apply if elected mayor? Alex, let's start with you.
That our community is incredibly strong and generous, and that we can go through pretty extraordinary things together. And I think we always knew that, but this created a situation that was made that even more evident, and it was backed up by then what happened in the cyclone. I think there's an interesting part where we were being dictated to from the government, basically, which set the direction. And I think there is a part where how does local democracy better interface during those kinds of times with the central direction? And there has to be a better balancing act, I think. I think it was very centre controlled because of the circumstances of that emergency, but I think everybody underestimated the power of local democracy and how that role should have played, and I think there's more we could have done.
Well, you ran not just your farms, but also some motels, I think, through COVID. That's got to have been difficult. And what did you learn?
Yeah, Anne was on regional council at the same time. Just looking out for one another was really important, and understanding that everyone has individual needs and making sure that we all understand those.
And may I say, I appreciate the short and punchy answers because we've got a lot to get through. And I know there will be times when I may interrupt them and cut them off. You're going to have to forgive me for that because we've got so many points to touch on. I talk with a lot of councils around New Zealand, but one thing I've learnt just today is Central Hawke's Bay's rate of population growth. And I've been dealing recently with Selwyn in the South Island and Queenstown, which have had massive population growth. But this small council is fast becoming a big council, in a big district. It must be one of the most rapid growth of any small rural community in the country. How would you integrate so many newcomers to the community, and how would you keep up with infrastructure, Will?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit sceptical if that growth is going to keep up in the short term, just with the way things have gone. But we obviously have to have a plan for that growth, and but we can't simply fund it all before it arrives. We have to be doing it just in time, because right now our existing community members and our existing ratepayers are really struggling, and so the priority has to be on them as much as the new growth coming in.
But you can't turn away the new growth, can you?
No, but if you look at our rates differences compared to our neighbouring district councils and city councils, our rates like-for-like property are already at a much higher level. And looking at the forecast local water rates, our increases are higher as well. And so just, we do have to be careful around that, and all our rules and regulations and compliance costs to businesses, that we are, by everything we do, isn't turning people away.
Alex, they say growth pays for growth. I think that's a mantra of councils around the country and of the government. But it doesn't always work that way, does it? How would you keep up with the infrastructure?
Growth can pay for the majority of the growth, but it's a timing, phasing issue where sometimes the council ends up kind of bridging the difference. So the just-in-time approach to growth is really important, and the idea of the community being able to thrive and then the growth coming and adding colour to that is really important. We don't have all of the funding tools currently about how to address this, and it puts quite a bit of pressure on the council balance sheet, which then puts pressure on the ratepayers. So there is a basic economic fundamental about councils, though, is that there's just as much infrastructure here and there's a whole lot less people to pay for it. And so that's why when you compare to a city or a neighbouring area, that it doesn't add up and doesn't make sense. Regardless of that, we're an attractive place to live and largely an affordable place to live, and so people do want to come here. I think I go back to the 2010 analogy that I gave. Back in 2010, global financial crisis, we all thought that Central Hawke's Bay was going downhill. It didn't happen. We had to go through a period of stale to then get back to the period of growth.
I want to come back to rates affordability later, but first you just mentioned financing growth, financing new housing, financing new infrastructure. I'd be interested to hear from both of you, what is a new revenue or financing tool that you think could credibly help the council in the coming years? Let's start with you, Alex.
I think the interesting thing for us is that the additional funding tools that are being talked about by the wider local government council sector and by the government are not necessarily that relevant to us here. So if you go to a bed tax that they talk about in Queenstown or Christchurch or Auckland, that doesn't necessarily make sense here. But one thing that would be really helpful is about the approach around GST around rates, and also the approach around GST around building and activity that is contributing here. So growth is great for creating economic activity, but the reality is the majority of the money that's collected as a tax goes to central government and not here to the council. So they become a ratepayer, but actually the biggest portion heads down to Wellington. So that GST distribution, I think, is crucial for us.
I'm hearing you taking 2 cuts of GST there, one on housing and one on rates. You're dreaming, aren't you? Nicola Willis isn't going to agree to that.
Well, we need one or the other. There has to be something in that distribution of goods and services tax which is relevant to the goods and services that are happening here. And I think there's multiple ways to look at it, and we have to look at all of the options because there's just not enough tools.
I've been talking to ACT. They've got that in coalition agreement, that a share of GST on housing. They're getting nowhere, even though it's in their coalition agreement. So what makes you think that councils can get anywhere on that one?
I think there's a growing appreciation around the country that we have to then pressure those that represent us in Wellington, actually, that this idea of property tax being the only way that we pay for infrastructure is actually really outdated. That was relevant 150 years ago. Is it still relevant now? Nobody seems to want to have that conversation, and I think we have to collectively push our representatives on that.
We're going to be talking a lot about property tax and rates. Will, what is one new revenue or financing tool that you think could work for this district?
Yeah, look, I keep hearing, we all keep hearing that the government has got more funding for us, and some of those avenues have just been discussed. My take is that the government is not coming to our rescue, and for a lot of reasons, but mainly their own budget and their own debt trajectory is basically just getting to quite frightening levels. And until they at least get their budget into a break-even or a surplus, and their debt stopping growing like it is, we just won't see them as a partner financially. So my feeling is it's really hard to look for new revenue sources because it's still coming from our people, whether it's rates, whether it's taxes, whether it's fees and charges, and people are just saying we don't have any more. So until this, I guess, economy unlocks itself again, because it does feel like we're in a bit of a GFC type moment again, we have to look at what we can control, and that's our own budget and our own expenditure.
I hear Will saying that there is no new revenue or finance magic tool, magic bullet on the horizon. I hear Alex desperately hoping that the government might come to the party. There are other solutions out there. There's public-private partnerships for financing. There's private investment. Could any of those work at a district level for the sort of infrastructure you have here? Will?
Yeah, until you said infrastructure, what I was going to say was, and I briefly mentioned it in my opening statement, is that on my campaign trail, I'm coming across lots and lots of people that are saying, we want to help, we want to do this, we want to do that, such as the business community here in Waipakaro. Like, they just want to do, they're going through a really tough time, which is probably no surprise to anyone, but do, some promotional activities. And there used to be some really cool street markets and events that pulled everyone into town, and there were stalls and food and music all on the main street. Everyone was right there, and the shopkeepers would do well of it. Now there's a market, the council promotes a market out at the park, and the main street businesses don't see any of that. So there's some really simple stuff we can do that people want to help with and actually get some benefit and promotion to our local businesses, which then flows on to the rest of our ratepayers.
Alex, do you want to chip in on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. There's opportunities for getting involved all over the place, and that's a really good example about the markets where people can get involved. And also about how contractors are involved in the work that we've been doing, particularly around like cyclone cleanup, some of the work that's happened with our local contractors on the stormwater network, for instance. And so there are ways that people are putting up their hands and contributing to what the next stages are. I think one of the things about additional funding tools is that it's about redistribution of how funds are coming into the community. And one of the things for us is that the public-private partnerships is a real buzz term at the moment. The reality is our ratepayers will still have to pay. It doesn't take the cost away. And so it sounds cool, but actually we're still the ones that have got to contribute to paying for that work.
Infrastructure funding and financing, same deal?
Yes, so that's really interesting. That's touted by the government as an option, but actually the investigations we've done is that it might work for a big city, but for us at our scale, it doesn't work. It's not worth the cost of running the structure.
For those who aren't familiar with that term, I'll have a go at explaining it, and Alex and Will might need to chip in as well, but essentially there's a statute that's been passed that allows councils to levy on future residents who are moving into developments, for instance, or to set a levy for the next 30 years and then to borrow against that to pay for the infrastructure now. Is that right? Is that roughly right?
Kind of. But it gets back into this view of, well, how do we pay for depreciation? And we should have been putting money aside in advance. And that hasn't happened for 100 years. And so actually you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. And what we can't have is today's generation paying for the past, paying for today, and paying for the future, because that doesn't add up.
Will, I know you have some thoughts on depreciation as well. Has this council been doing it well enough? Is it a problem from the ancient past, from 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, or has it been an ongoing problem?
Well, it looks obvious there's been no depreciation funded, but what I don't want to do is become the new mayor and start blaming previous councils, previous people that have represented us. We've just got to stop this blame game. So if I became the mayor, it's like, where are we at right now? What have we got? And how do we best move forward from here? Because that's all I can control.
The events and markets you've been talking about sound fantastic, but I'm told that about 60% of the working population commutes to Hastings and Napier. Is that a bad thing? Well,
not at all, because I know, and once again on the campaign trail, coming across people that live here in Central Hawke's Bay because they love living here, but work up in Hastings and Napier, and obviously there's a lot more job opportunities up there, so it makes sense that not everyone's going to live and work down here, but we certainly need to do what we can do, and I ask everyone out on the trail and at my own meetings, how much should council be involved in economic development? Because it is crucial to us prospering in this district. And don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's tough times out there at the moment. And so anything that we can do to support economic development, support jobs, and simply at least retain what we've got at the moment has got to be a good thing.
Alex, are you happy with this being a commuter suburb of Hastings?
I think it actually adds to the colour and the strength of Central Hawke's Bay because we need to be diverse in our economy, and we can't just be reliant on one sector or one source of income. And I think what this does is actually strengthens our ability to stay and grow here as Central Hawke's Bay. We've seen what can happen when we have a particular sector that rises and falls. And look, our red meat sector is going really strongly at the moment, but it's a changing face in our economy. So the growing use of pine trees on our land, all of our land diversification of our economy is also important. And the other benefit is that we actually need to have new perspectives coming into our community and new people that bring new talents, new energy and new perspectives on how we grow and build our community.
I see Will nodding when you're talking about the red meat business. Friesians, is it?
Bit of everything, actually. Angus and Dairy Cross, yeah.
Talking to people here, there's on previous visits and again this week, there's clearly a sense of pride in this district. How would you guys, as mayor, harness that pride, especially if you're having to implement changes that may lessen this district's autonomy? Alex?
Yeah, so we have this moment in time where we have come through a couple of situations which were completely out of our control. COVID being the first one, and then the cyclone being the other. And what that has meant is that we have gone through some pretty traumatic experiences, and we've become quite isolated. People concerned about what's relevant to them and to their household and looking after their household, and have forgotten about the community spirit that takes us forward. And there is a big change coming, because how we deliver our water is going to change. That's going to change the face of our council and what we do. So I think there is a piece where all of our community participating in what it means to be Central Hawke's Bay. Let's be Central Hawke's Bay. What does that mean? And be part of a process to be really clear about what are the things we need to drive for us during the next period. We've got to wean ourselves off the trauma and the isolation and the blame game of these other emergencies that have happened to us and take control of what matters to us.
I'm interested in hearing you talk about isolation in the community, and I'd actually be interested in hearing what the crowd here has to say about that. Could I have a raise of hands of who feels that in the last few years, after COVID and after Cyclone Gabriel, they and their communities have become more isolated from each other? So we have a small number. And who feels that that's actually helped bring them together as a community? Will, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's definitely a range of both out there, and not just meaning the hands, but in the community. You do hear both diverse views since COVID. I mean, everyone agrees the world has changed since then. But I'm just immensely proud, and as I said, it's been so encouraging getting around during the campaign and listening to people, because they are still positive, even though everyone agrees we've all got these significant issues. They are positive that we can do much better and we can do something about it.
I think there's a piece where those that are actively engaged are really contributing and are really getting amongst it. There was a matter of only a few weeks after the cyclone, we went round and created a community-led recovery plan where there was hundreds of people from around the district that came out and were part of what do I need to just survive the next few months, and what do we need to do to rebuild our community. And so those of you that are actively doing that are absolutely carrying us through, but there are hundreds and thousands of people that are not in this room tonight and haven't necessarily engaged in those forums that we need to work hard to take with us.
Thank you. One new central government requirement is that the district hold a referendum this year on its Māori ward. Alex, what's your view on having the ward? And is the money for a referendum a worthwhile spend?
So we have this interesting situation where we, as local councils, need to work with our local mana whenua. And we have the power to create some pretty powerful outcomes from doing that. The Local Government Act, the Resource Management, all sorts of legislation refers to that. But actually it's about us honouring the history of this community and those that know this community even more intimately than the rest of us. I am a big advocate for Māori ward representation, because we need people to be able to sit at the council table and be unapologetically Māori about how they approach a problem. And for someone like me who doesn't have whakapapa, it's an interesting thing to challenge yourself about whether you can be that person, because you actually can't be that person. And this has been a really big journey for me about learning about this. And we've got a big opportunity to completely reset the dial about how democracy works for all of us in the way that fits all of us. So if you're on the Māori ward, Māori electoral roll, you use your democratic vote in the way that works for you. And I think this is going to create a place for us to be way stronger in solving our problems together and creating a really strong future.
Will the referendum cost any extra, or is it pretty much absorbed into the cost of the local government election?
It has cost us a little bit more. Every council that's had to do the referendum has had to take some of that cost on. But it's the same. If anyone wants to talk about how they're represented differently, we have a process to do that. And at the time of our representation review, our mana whenua and our Māori community stood up and said this was important to them, and they wanted council to work for them to make sure that they could achieve their aspirations. And so we're following through on what they asked us to do.
Well, am I correct that Hawke's Bay Regional Council also has a Māori ward?
Has two.
And how did that go? How's that gone?
So that's gone good. So one of the councillors was actually already in the general and came across, and then got another new Māori ward councillor, and they've got a tough job because Hawke's Bay region wide is 72 marae, and so it's just two Māori ward councillors, representing that. But they do a good job bringing that Māori voice to the table.
And I don't hear either of you sounding very scared at the idea of Māori wards continuing, unlike some in the community.
No, it gives me hope. It gives me hope, actually, for the future, that we can actually be designing a future we can all see ourselves in. Because what I have learned and seen in our community is that there are people, particularly in our Māori community, who feel that they can't see themselves in the system. Well, that says the system's not going to work for them. There has to be hope in how we design and lead that system together, and that's what's going to create us to be stronger.
So how will you both vote in the referendum?
Absolutely retain Māori wards.
So I'm actually, once again, on the campaign trail, hugely diverse views in this district, and so decided to keep an open mind right to the end. I can't, as the mayor, I obviously can't influence the result. What I am talking to Māori about, which they say, well, actually, no one's thought about that, is what happens after the result. And so having really good discussions around, if it's yes, okay, what does that look like? And to me, I've got some ideas around, I oppose the representation review that's just gone, that's increased the total number of councillors, and so we'd look at that. And then if the referendum is no, obviously the Māori ward will stay for one term and then go again. And what does that look like? And this council has had some Māori voice around the table for quite some time, and we obviously just have to go back to that. And how does that look like?
I'm not sure if I should push a point on this. So you're not taking a position until you're in the ballot. Well, I was going to say in the ballot box. We don't have ballot boxes anymore, do we? Until you cast your vote.
Yeah, as I said, there's real diverse views in this district, and so I'm listening to both sides, and obviously both sides have got valid points. So it's not something I've thought deeply about. I supported the Māori wards at regional council level, at district council in this district. I'm listening to all those views.
I'm pretty sure I heard people saying no, I shouldn't press the point. So fine.
Yeah, but we've got a situation where actually we're all getting a vote, and Will's going to get a vote, and I'm going to get a vote, and you're going to get a vote. And actually, there's something about leadership being decisive and being really clear. If you're supporting me, that's the viewpoint that you're supporting. And you need to know what your leaders and your candidates stand for. So I'm absolutely unapologetic in standing in that.
Well, I understand New Zealand Transport Authority funding for roads has been slowing at the same time that the district has to build back from Cyclone Gabrielle and the other weather events of the past few years. Does that mean cutting back on spending on roads, or do you have a better solution?
So from what I understand, and you've got to remember, I'm haven't been operating in this council and around roading, but from what I understand is you need that government funding, and then you top up with your rates at a certain level, and they have to be at a certain level each. You can't just increase your rates and go off and do more, because then the NZTA pull back from that. So we really are dependent on the current model and their support in maintaining our roads. Now, it's the level that is being spent is not enough, but also, and from what I hear from all the rural folks, so obviously the urban issues are really focused on the local waters at the moment, but if you talk to any rural ratepayer, it's all about roading. And there's so many stories about what they see as either jobs not getting done, jobs getting redone time and time again, and just inefficiencies. So yes, we could do with more money, but are we using the funds, either rates and the government contribution, are we using it wisely enough?
Alex, on potholes and road cones?
Yeah. So we, 59% of every dollar that we spend on our roading network comes from NZTA or from the government. And in the recovery phases, we have successfully advocated to get that to 89%, which has been a massive relief to us being able to get through that recovery. But actually, 3 years ago, we launched a land transport transformation plan because we could see that it was not delivering in the way that we needed it to. Completely interrupted by a cyclone, but since then have put a whole lot of pieces in place around reducing the amount of traffic management required. We have reduced the amount of consultants that are being employed in that space, and there's more in-house expertise. We have changed the way that we are managing those contracts, sending those contractors back to be redoing work, and making far more value to have to come out of those contracts. What happens though is that the main contracts only come up for renewal every few years. The main maintenance contract is actually about to be retendered right now. And so this has been rescoped. We need a new culture and approach to how we're delivering. And most importantly, we need local on-the-ground expertise about how to do this. The approach from Council has been to create a requirement in that contracting for key result areas for local employment. So up to 25% is the amount in those contracts that will be expected to be local employment and local subcontractors to develop our on-the-ground expertise and tap into that on-the-ground expertise. The opportunity to do that in these big contracts only comes every few years, and it's right on our doorstep now, and I'm really excited about how that's going to add to further transformation.
So is that a case of managing how much the cost goes up, or do you think you can actually tighten how much you're paying on maintenance?
We absolutely have to be smarter, and the pot of money does not increase. In fact, we had an interesting experience 18 months ago where there was a move to try and increase our local land transport rate to try and do more work. But the reality was NZTA wouldn't come along and fund alongside, and their rate of funding is not increasing actually really at all. So every dollar has to do more now, and we're driving every dollar to do more.
And that decision will be for whoever's mayor and in council after the election?
I think the contract actually goes out for tender in about a week, actually.
When will it come back?
In the new year.
Can I just have a quick time check, because I stupidly didn't bring a watch on stage, and I don't want to run out of time for the key questions and for your questions.
7:37.
Thank you. Rates. The government thinks councils are spending wastefully. Local Government Minister Simon Watts is promising details of a proposed rates cap by Christmas. Assuming it will happen, what is the best shape that should take, in your view, Will?
So a rates capping idea is actually a really good idea to put some control around this affordability, because if you, and there's people talk about different measures of inflation, but I relate it back to actually the income inflation, and so whether it's wage or something similar. But if you keep increasing a cost such as rates higher than the rate of your wage inflation, maths tells you eventually it'll catch up. So that just can't continue. So a rates capping is a good idea. What is the magic figure? Like, without being in the mechanics inside the council, I'm not sure, but it puts some controls around future councils not being able to, do what we've seen. And it sounds like there's still going to be the ability to consult if you have this big capital program of works that you may need to do, such as local water.
Will knew I was going to ask what level the rates cap should be set at, so he anticipated my question there. Alex, 0% rates cap, CPI, level of construction inflation, 5% like some of the South Island mayors are proposing?
I actually don't think you can put a number on it, because everything that happens at the council table is about how do we get the right value from how we spend our rate dollar for the services and the infrastructure that we get. Part of the challenge that we've got is that the narrative around rates capping has come from this perspective that councils are wasting money on building conference centres and glass-fronted museums. Don't know if you've noticed, we haven't got either of those things here. More than 90% of the rates that we collect are absolutely on the pipes, the pumps and the potholes. And so actually to put a number on that is really difficult. And when you think about the underinvestment that we are trying to deal with, it actually doesn't make any sense at all. And if you've got to fund depreciation as well to put aside that money for the rainy day for the future, it certainly doesn't make sense. So there has to be a place where local democracy holds their council to account to be doing the right thing for the community at the time. And your council's reading that at the moment right now. We've just created a huge drop in the amount of investment going into the waters frame, because we can see that we need to get the timing of this far better, and that right now we've got to ride out the next couple of years. So your voices contributing to the council table that are putting the tension into those decisions.
Your proposed change to water infrastructure spending still entails, correct me if I'm wrong, a peaking, I think, at $4,800 in water charges. Is that right? A few years down the track. That's a massive impost on any household. Is there something more that the council can actually do in terms of cutting back spending rather than just cutting back infrastructure spend, cutting back operational spending?
So we've already made some pretty big cuts on operational spending. So last year's budget, $1.5 million was taken out of operational spending. This year there's been another $750,000. There's been 2 rounds of staff redundancies. We have closed 2 transfer stations. We've reduced customer service fronting hours. We've done a whole variety of things to reduce operational costs. But that's in the part of the business that's running the rest of the council business. The idea of what the rates will be in the water entity is slightly different. We've looked at that through if we just did it on our own, what would the numbers be? The next step has to be about, well, how do we then match up with Hastings and Napier to get the right balance, to get more efficiency from that scale, to make those water charges more affordable. But I also want to be clear, I know every household's paying $3,500 already for their water services, and so that is already really difficult, and we have to have a big change on how we're doing that, and that's why the regional water CCO is so important.
I want to come back to water because I'm obsessively fascinated by it. But first, Will, what would you shut down? What would you cut to keep rates down?
Yeah, so we definitely have to look at the council operation as a whole and not just single out the water. And I know the council are currently doing a lot of work to pull that number back, which is what the people need to see. And Alex is right. A lot of services have been cut, and so a big, I guess, bone of contention out on the campaign trail and from the people is we keep paying more and more rates, but we're getting less and less for those rates. So where is all the money going? And so Alex listed some key services there that did have significant impacts on services to a lot of our people. But there are some things still there where people aren't, I would argue, aren't seeing any benefit. And so there's like fees to LGNZ. Hawke's Bay Tourism was brought up from one of the candidates earlier. There's contribution to things like Climate Joint Action Committee, the Hawke's Bay Economic Development Agency up in Hastings. And so we really need to look at the value all those external funding are providing, our ratepayers back here at a grassroots level, because I think a lot of people would argue that they aren't.
Alex, I've met you at a few LGNZ functions. Is it time for Central Hawke's Bay to quit LGNZ, Local Government New Zealand?
If we think we've got all the answers within the boundaries of Central Hawke's Bay, then I think we've got a problem. LGNZ provides the ability for us to interact and advocate to government in a coordinated way and in a way that we can't do on our own. So actually the value proposition from being a member of an organisation like that is really powerful. It's like being a member of Federated Farmers or a member of Beef and Lamb. And it's something that gives us a voice that we don't have to pay for here. We can be coordinated there, and also for creating professional development opportunities where you can be supported to learn how to be a great elected member. So there is oodles of value that comes from being a member of that organisation.
Do you know off the top of your head how much Central Hawke's Bay pays for its membership?
Not off the top of my head.
I forgive you. Roads, rates, regional water. Hawke's Bay has been working for some years on a multi-council water services organisation, a water company, for want of a better phrase, and the government is now taking a similar path. On Thursday, the council will vote on sending through its water services plan to internal affairs for approval or not. Do you believe a multi-council water company is the right way to go for this district, Will?
No, and I participated in the submission process and said that, so that won't be news to Alex. No, I've just seen my 6 years in regional council and, observing central government, we just keep thinking, creating these new entities and employing more people and new governance boards solves everything, and I'm still struggling to see the results from all of that. In terms of amalgamated entity, 6 years on the regional council, you could argue is a model of a regional entity where CHB has one seat around the table of currently 11 councillors. And so, I feel like I've got first-hand experience of that. And you were talking about, being proud of living in your district here, but working in Hastings or elsewhere. And what I can say is Central Hawke's Bay is very much a unique district and place compared to Hastings, Napier and Wairoa, from my experience being on the regional council.
So the water services plan has to be delivered to Internal Affairs by September 3. The election is October 11. I'm told by Internal Affairs that they do not expect that this will be the end of the conversation. They expect to be going back and forth with councils, negotiating, discussing, highlighting flaws in their plans and their perceived financial sustainability. Given the chance, will you roll back the water services plan as it's about to be delivered to Internal Affairs?
So there's a lot of information that's been excluded from the public or just simply hasn't been worked out yet as far as I'm aware. So, hopefully if I was to get onto the council, then I would be obviously privy to a lot more information than the public is now. So it would be a matter of the whole new team, because it's not just me on the council, it's going to be a team of 9 councillors and a mayor. And so we would need to assess all the up-to-date information and then make a decision from there. But whatever it is, it needs to be what is the best way forward for Central Hawke's Bay and its ratepayers.
Alex, is there information that the public is not privy to?
No, I don't think so. All of the modelling is all available through a variety of different places, and actually, if you're interested, the Water Services Delivery Plan is on the Council website for consideration on Thursday. The thing with this is, what are the other options? And with the scale of work that needs to happen here, particularly compliance around wastewater, the options are really, really limited about what we actually can do on our own. And there is a piece where DIA is going to need to provide some feedback about what they consider as being sustainable. And we've been on this track for the last few years because literally no one, including the 8 elected members and myself and the advisors and all of the inputs we've had for this, have not been able to come up with a better way to do it. And that is going to be sustainable for a small number of ratepayers with a huge amount of infrastructure work to do. So if there is another option that's actually viable, all ears. Otherwise, I absolutely back myself as one of 3 as the shareholders of this new entity to set this up really strongly for Central Hawke's Bay. It's about having effective governance and relationships and communications to get this to work for us. Has to work for us in Central Hawke's Bay, not us being servants to others.
Will Central Hawke's Bay have an equal voice on that entity?
We are 1/3 of the voice in the shareholders group.
I have one last question, and then I want to take some questions from email and from the floor. There's been growing talk around the country of amalgamations of neighbouring district councils and regional councils. Tell me one way you could make that work for Central Hawke's Bay well. How could you make amalgamation work? What's a way that it could work for this community?
That's hard when I don't agree with it.
I'm sorry, I've just seen there's a little footnote here, only ask the easy questions.
It's trying to improve the voice around the table. So, as I said, currently at Regional Council, it's 1 voice out of 11. And when I say the most important thing for our flood resilience is get gravel out of the rivers, they all laugh at me because they don't understand.
Alex, how are you going to amalgamate this council?
Will's experience is exactly why we can't just see amalgamation as a binary yes or no, all in or all out conversation. Because it's difficult to be effective as one person like that when you haven't got the backing of a strong organisation and a strong community business that can support you. So my view on this, I used to be a pro-amalgamationist, okay? I used to be. 10 years ago I voted for amalgamation. Shock, horror. The experiences for me in Cyclone Gabrielle have absolutely disabused me of that notion. Absolutely. If we had not had the leadership and autonomy to respond and look after our people and do what we needed to do in that situation, we would still be waiting for Napier to turn up to help us in Porongaho. So for me, there has to be something that is not a binary choice if we have to go all regional or we go all separate, because all separate doesn't work for us with our small number of ratepayers. We have to find a way to leverage that scale. So I don't have all of the answers, but part of what I've seen in the region is that we should be able to do things like this water entity is a really good way for us to try and explore how we can get this to work for us. The region works with us and we still have our autonomy. We can stand up as the representatives backed by community and backed by a credible autonomous council here that can back up that voice and be part of that advocacy. So it's an and conversation.
Shared water services, also shared consenting?
Potentially, I think that's a real opportunity. So right now, our consenting activity in Central Hawke's Bay is quiet, which means it's difficult for us to maintain the expertise here to be ready for when our consenting activity does need to happen. We've done some innovative things like contracting our building consent officers to other districts to try and ride that out, but it actually makes sense for us to be partnering with the rest of the region to help bridge that together.
I have a question here that's been emailed in. And this is about the one piece of infrastructure in Central Hawke's Bay that everyone in New Zealand knows about. what was once known as Ruataniwha Dam, and now the Tuki Water Security Project, I think. It's now, the consents are being moved into a trust, as I understand it, being set up by the owners, by the private owners of the consents and by this district council. Should the district council contribute to the trust, and how important is this project to the community? Okay, Alex.
So water storage is vital for the future of this community, and not just us, but the whole region, because we have two things going on. We've got a really highly modified river catchment, which has got serious challenges, and we've got fluctuating climate scenarios. So how we store water and is really going to be very important for the future. We also need the enabler that's going to help us trigger further diversification of what we do in our community. That's economically really important. So I'm a big supporter of this as an initiative. From a council perspective, we have got our hands full with our core infrastructure. And this is something that we have been really focused on, being very clear that we're separating from that, and have been very clear to those that have been involved in this project that we can advocate and lend a voice to support the process that they're doing, but it's actually not about us carrying the risk, actually, of a really huge piece of infrastructure like that, which we can't cope with, or at the cost. I'm not naive as to think there might not be something in a refresh business model that comes and asks us the question, what does supporting water source for the towns look like? But we have to take that when it comes, and there's no information about that now. We have to do one step at a time.
Will, should the district council be contributing to the trust?
No. So for everything we've said, I think everyone said tonight, the council's under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and it just can't support anything else such as that. The group has currently got a updated business case underway, and that's 18 months to 2 years away, and so that'll come back, and obviously it'll have an estimated cost price, and it's going to be an astronomical figure, whoever looks at that, and we're not going to be able to make a difference, this council, and it needs to concentrate on its core services right now and looking after its ratepayers.
Urban water versus irrigation. Hands up who thinks urban water is the most pressing problem. Few hands. And who thinks rural water irrigation is the most pressing problem for the council? And I hear Alex whispering in my ear, it's not a council issue. Is that right?
It was only a smattering, I was surprised.
Question from BPW, Central Hawke's Bay. I'm concerned that there's been a recent uptick in older women in our district being made redundant or losing long-held jobs. Many of these women face challenges such as limited digital literacy, age and gender discrimination, and a lack of experience with CV writing and interview preparation. I understand Louise Upston was in town recently. If elected, what would you do to advocate expanding MSD's funding criteria through Mayoral Task Force for Jobs so these women can access the support they need? And I'm going to ambush you with that one, Will.
Look, if it's advocating for further assistance from government, any government ministry or department around supporting our people, then that's just a no-brainer to do, right?
So you do support going to the government for money sometimes?
Well, this is something like that might be their core business, but it's not asking them for funding, to come back for the council to spend. It's their area where they provide support services. And, if one of our jobs, the best thing we can do is making sure they're alerted to what the problems are at the coalface, because council may have a much better position and sight of what is happening as opposed to their own people in the ministry.
Good news, BPW. We actually have opportunities arriving on the doorstep already. So there's a concept that comes out of MSD called Digi Coaches, which are going to be roles where people can actually be employed to provide coaching on how to use digital devices and set yourselves up to be more digitally savvy, to help you do all sorts of things. And that's actually what Te Huinga Wai, the Knowledge and Learning Hub in Waipokoro, is is a great resource actually for creating those connections. And so go and see the team down there at the library and you might be able to access some of those things already. But advocating on these kinds of issues is an important role of the Mayor, and I take that very seriously.
I've done something terrible this evening, which is monopolised half of this conversation and asking too many questions despite not being from here. I think those of you in the room should be entitled to ask some questions. So if you could raise your hand. As you just heard, we have some roving mics. If you can catch my eye, I'll take my reading glasses off so I can see you. And wave for a mic, and we'll take questions from the floor. There we go. We have one over here.
Name, Rob.
Okay, in the front row first.
Rob, and I have a question for
if
both.
If the water done well, is it working? Yeah. If that's taken out of council control and expenditure, there's a danger that council is going to run up debt on other things if they haven't got that in their basket anymore. Is there any other way? Can you see that as being a problem? That there's going to be overall increased debt?
If local water done well moves water assets into the new multi-council water services organisation, will that mean that the council loses control and faces running up more debt? Alex?
So I think the question is about what remains at council and what does debt or the balance sheet, if you want to use a business term, what does that mean back within council? And will that just be run up on debt for other things? I want to put the question back to you, actually. The power is in your hands around what are the services and the things that you advocate for and you ask for, and the people you put at the table and how they make the decisions about what next. We can't just willy-nilly go and create debt on all sorts of things without having consulted with our community and, quite frankly, being community-led around what's important and the things that we might use additional debt borrowing to do to allow intergenerational investment. But right now, I don't think the direction from community is there on that, and we don't have a proposal that would look at that. So you guys are in charge of that.
Are you worried about their loss of control over finances?
I'm really worried about debt. No, we can't keep increasing at the growth rate that it has. And that's where the government's got itself into trouble and why it's struggling at the moment. The debt's, I think it's around 190 billion. It's costing them around 11 billion a year in their budget. If you look at the 2024 LTP document, at one of the first few pages, it talks about the interest rate swing. It's around a 4.2 or 3%, I think, swing from the COVID years to then. And the debt in 2024 was around 45 million, and they're saying that was a significant issue that was applying pressure. If then you go to the local water consultation when it came out, and they are ratcheting things back now, but that was talking about $155 million total debt. Now, if we have 155 and we have an interest rate swing like we did, then your rates, what's going to happen then? You're talking about, and because it's ring fenced to mostly the urban ratepayers, you're talking anywhere from 10 to 20% increase just to pay an interest rate movement like that. It's scary.
But hang on. As I understand it, this council has something like 70% debt to revenue ratio at present. That's pretty low by national standards. There's big urban growth city councils that are pushing up to 280%. So should we be really that worried about these debt levels?
Yes. Yes, but actually, we've just heard a really good reason why we need to have a structure that operates in a different way when it comes to how we service debt. So the difference between how we service debt as on our own compared to how it will be serviced in a regional CCO is completely different. There is There is different mechanisms for that borrowing and for how there will be protections around those interest rate levels, and is exactly why we can't deal with that level of debt here on our own, and why we need a bigger structure which has got some ability to hedge us and protect us in that space.
Gentleman in the front row. No. We have one up the back in the blue sweatshirt.
Thank you, Will and Alex and the candidates for coming along this evening. It's fantastic. Now, this is all about the health and well-being of the community of Central Hawke's Bay, and in particular the limestone tracks, the river pathways, and the Gumtree Park. And an integral part of that was the swing bridge. Now, we all know we lost the swing bridge, and we did get a lump of money from the regional council towards replacing it. But the district council decided in its wisdom that they might put the wastewater pipes underneath the bridge, which escalated the cost of the rebuilding the bridge massively, and the time factor they took to decide that they weren't going to put the pipes under the bridge has cost us, or the trust, a lot of money. My question to the council is, do you think that you should be funding the difference between the money we got and the cost of the bridge because of your indecision?
I think that's pointed at me, Dennis, is it? Sure. So it became really evident when the swing bridge needed to be repaired that actually a like-for-like was not going to be possible because of the change of flood risk through the river channel, and that actually just building it back like it was actually not going to work. And so the timing came up of an opportunity where actually council funding could be applied to support getting the bridge back if it also contributed to a core function of council, which is to move a pipe across the river. And so a logical way for us to contribute our ratepayers' contribution for a core service to help this amenity come back. And in that period of time, actually, the Regional Council have also been reluctant to consider consenting putting anything back in the river channel either. So arguably, whether actually the delay whether the involvement of Council had slowed that right down. But the Council has been holding the additional funds that Regional Council had contributed to that as well. And last week, Council made the decision to get out of the way. We don't need to be able to put the pipe across the bridge yet. So get out of the way, make sure that interest is applied to the funds that have been in the bank, and to enable for that project to happen in a different way and disconnect the water project from it.
I promised that I would ask the dumb questions. Can I clarify, as an out-of-towner, is this different from the Tukituki Bridge?
That's it.
It's the same bridge? Alistair, your question's been asked. We have a question in the middle here.
Hi there. I was just wondering if there has been two fundamental changes to the local water done well plan. One, that the capital expenditure has been majorly reduced, and the PwC error to the rates, which is different to what we voted on. If there should be a public consultation on that matter.
I'd like to hear from both of you on that one. Should we go back to consultation, given that the model has changed since what was first consulted on?
I can go. We asked that question at the table when we came together to think about what we need to do next. We've got some timelines against us with the Water Services Delivery Plan needing to go to government at the end of the month. But actually, what the changes to those numbers have been really advantageous to us, and which is really helpful, and in fact has made the clarity between the decision of whether we can do something on our own or we work together as the region even more clear, and the direction of travel is largely the same. I'm really frustrated that mistake from PwC caused that, because the hurt that those numbers have caused in the community from the outrage, and quite rightly the outrage about that has been really hurtful, and they're under no illusion as to how hurtful that has been. But actually the difference between the options and the direction of travel are largely the same, and we've got time's not on our side.
What was the quantum of the difference of the error? Was it about $1,000 a year?
Just over 10 years. So the number that we had at the end of 10 years of modelling was $7,000 per household. The PwC error for how some of the interest was applied in the later years means that it would go down to $5,800, so that's a $1,200 difference. And then at the 10-year period. And then the work that Council has done to change the investment program has brought that down to $4,700, I think it is. So another over $1,000 to come down.
Will, back to consultation with the community, reopen this?
Yeah, look, all I can talk to is my experience at Regional Council, and they drum into us like in a real pedantic about any consultation. You're within kind of bookends, and when you start making decisions that go outside of that, then you have to reconsult. I mean, it's all around the Local Government Act, and so I get the timelines that the council is pressured by, but you know, what's the legality of this? And so I'm not sure, but I would hope the council has sought legal advice on where they've got to, and you know, what's the advice based from legal advisors?
Yes.
Yeah, and what I can say is my conversations with Internal Affairs, I set the question directly, if changes are made to the water services plans, can or should councils go back to the communities for consultation? The answer from Internal Affairs was no. Do we have any more questions from... There we go, one up the back there.
Just while that mic's going to Trevor, actually, ironically, DIA and the government didn't even think we should consult on these water service delivery plans at all. But local government stood up and said, heck no, the responsible thing to do is to work with our communities on these kinds of decisions.
Thanks, Alex. Trevor Leaf, kia ora. Now, water's come up a lot tonight, as we would expect. And both our rural and urban communities really need to be doing their bit to manage this precious and finite resource. Do either of you support, or would you support an investigation into the feasibility and the cost of installing water meters in our urban communities, including means to pay for any installation that wouldn't unduly affect rates?
Definitely support the investigation of them. There's some pretty cool technology out there where once installed, it's pretty efficient collection of the data. It's just what's the cost, what's the outcome it's going to provide, and so if it's, you know, and then so where and when do you stage it in the capital investment program, and then hopefully you'd get to the right answer after all of that.
Big fan, and in fact I did spend a bit of time living in South Wairarapa where they put water meters in at the time that we were there. So a couple of reasons they're really important. First is to find leaks, and the household I was living in at the time had a massive leak under the concrete driveway that was disappearing into the river gravels, and it was just pouring out, but nobody had any idea until there was a water meter. So that's really important. And the second thing is, in our affordability issues in the community, is that the hardest pressed are our superannuitants, and particularly those that have no other income apart from their superannuation and potentially are living alone. And actually the user pays component of how we could smartly use water meters in the future is actually vital to that, because my household, we've got 3 teenage girls with long hair, and that's a lot of water in the shower. But I'm not sure that I'd want my grandmother to have to pay for the same amount of water either. So there's a really logical, smart way to be using water meters to help us with usage and also our affordability.
I have taken us way over time. I do apologise. I'm going to take one last question from the second row there, and then we are going to wrap it up. Thank you.
Kia ora. You mentioned about rates. I'm already at 4,000. I'm over 4,800 now. And I changed from, 2 years ago, $50 a fortnight, to $100 a fortnight early last year, to at the end of this year told, end of last year, $200 a fortnight. So that's creeping up. So my question is, as the rates are creeping up, there are real homes and property at risk. And have you considered what would happen to people if you were to be mayor, if they're losing their properties because they can't pay their rates? It's not an unusual thing. It just hasn't happened often. But with the rates increasing the way they are, we run a real risk of people losing their properties. When the rents went up, we were inundated with people trying to extract money out of their accounts. So I'll put it to you both as mayors. As the mayor, there's a real risk of people losing property. What are your thoughts on how we could get in front of that?
You're right. It's a huge risk, and I talked about the risk around debt before, and this is just another one. And when you look at the 200 submissions to the local water consultation, regardless of what entity they chose, most of them said we can't afford that and we're going to have to move out. So this is where I come back to the people don't sense that they are being put first, because where does the people feature in plans like this? So we need to start with the people, with the ratepayer. Where are they at? What is affordable? And try and find the right balance between the investment we have to do and what the people can afford, because the initial plan was we've just got to do it all now. And this is my fear around going to a regional entity, is that when they're tasked with providing, safe, clean water, well-treated sewage and good operational stormwater, are they going to be sitting up in Napier Hastings considering our affordability, or are they just going to be saying we need to get this done because that's what we're tasked with? That's my concern there around losing the control. So you're right, a real risk, and we have to find the right balance, because it hasn't been found yet.
Alex, do you have a quick response to that?
Yeah, we absolutely have to find the balance, and why Council has been doing the work that they have in the last few months to try and readjust that balance. I think we have to also go at the regional level, what's the level of influence that we need and how do we back ourselves to do that? And this is something that we have spent a lot of time putting the expertise together about how to do. But actually the other thing that is not talked about is the fact that investing for compliance and investing for renewals is actually going to be tasked by an economic regulator, whether we have the water pipes in our council or whether they're in a CCO. So actually there's a regulation piece here where someone else is going to be considering that balance, and why I've been so strongly advocating to the Commerce Commission as well about how are they going to consider affordability, because they are going to hold some of those levers as well, and this is what the government has put in place to make this reform work.
Alex, if you promise not to prosecute me for going way over time on this, I will allow you a 1 minute closing statement. I'm just a bit worried about the permits for this building at this time of night.
Look, we're in a really tough time right now, and I'm just going to go back to the reflection I made earlier about coming out of the global financial crisis. We've done a huge amount of work to build the expertise and the knowledge to be able to serve this community in the right way, to invest for the future. And to thrive, we need a council that is able to do the things that you need it to do and expect it to be able to do, particularly around infrastructure, so that we can build those communities of the future. We have to dig into the efficiencies and the transformation that we've already done, and we need to get this regional water CCO to truly get its cogs moving to get us the most efficient and affordable approach to our water infrastructure. That is the biggest potential change to affordability in this district we've had for a very long time, and we've got to get that working. It's something that I have a lot of relationships and expertise and knowledge in, and actually the ability to lead and contribute to this is really important, to take our community's voice to make this work for us, not for someone else.
Thank you, Alex. And Will, you get the last word. You've got 1 minute as well.
Thanks, Jonathan. So look, I've got 6 years' experience on local government, and the biggest skill I've learned is to listen to the people. Right now, as I said, no one's thriving, no one feels this sense of togetherness. So let's reset, redo the strategy, and start again, and start with the ratepayers first. That's what I'm proposing, and all of these other issues might just seem a little bit easier. As I said, there's a lot of easy wins out there that I'm picking up on the campaign that we can do that don't actually cost much. So let's like pick all the low-hanging fruit and get people back in the sense of community and together, and then let's keep tackling all these hard issues that have been covered off tonight. Local water and roading are the big ones, and then also any of our other infrastructure, which, there hasn't been any depreciation, and so there's some big conversations, big issues to tackle, but let's do it in a balanced way.
Will Foley, Alex Walker, thank you very much for tonight. And can I have a big round of applause for both the mayoral candidates and all the candidates who are here tonight? It is so important. Engagement in our communities and these brave people who put themselves forward for election, I cannot speak highly enough. I would like to also thank Rotary and thank BPW. You've done a fantastic job tonight. It's brilliant. Thanks so much. And also Central FM, who have helped us out. And of course, all of you, thank you for coming out. Give yourselves a hand. Pam, where are you?
Kia tātou katoa te atawhai o tō tātou ariki o i hukaraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmine. Kia ora.
Thanks, Jonathan. I didn't give you a...